You cut open your arteries accidentally playing with knives.
I wasn't playing.
No, you were cutting, like, for real. The real story's worse than playing.
Stop it. We're not going through it.
All right, email me and I will tell you.
Don't you dare.
What up, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, your favorite full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, hosted by your favorite brothers, me, Nate, and this one over here, Zach.
What up?
And we are, as you know, a full spoiler reread, and last episode we spoiled, who was it?
Theon.
Theon, yeah, fuck Theon. That's
Theon
why I forget
6, his final chapter.
Yeah. But if you've joined us before, thank you for coming back. If you haven't been here, again, full spoiler, last warning, we're going to discuss the series, and we expect you to know what's going on or not care that you don't know when we ruin it for you.
True that.
So, leave, do what you got to do, whatever. Anyway, as I said, Theon lost Winterfell to Ramsay Snow.
Shocker. He knew it was coming. He was going to lose it to somebody, but yes, Theon at first was awoken by Maester Luwin, who was telling him to yield. That's your best option. Yield and take the black, motherfucker, because you're basically fucked. And Theon didn't want to listen. He is Prince of Winterfell, and he'll hold it. But he didn't want to let or command any of his men to die with him, so he gave them the choice. Only about 15 stayed. The rest
17.
left. 17 stayed. The rest left. And then the Northerners who were outside, he treated with Sir Roderick and basically threatened him. Not basically, he threatened him with his daughter's death if Roderick attacked, which Roderick is oath-bound and sworn to attack. And Theon knows this. And the Northmen were set upon by, at first, seemingly friendly, but revealed not to be Boltons. And Ramsay Bolton came striding back, revealing himself not to be Reek as he pretended to be, but the actual bastard of Bolton himself, who then broke Theon's cheekbone with a sweet backhand.
Fuck yes.
And commanded that the Freys be saved, but the rest be burned.
And he killed Luwin.
And Luwin took a spear between the shoulder
dead
blades.
yet.
He's not dead yet. He's bleeding out for 4 more chapters before we see him die.
That's all right.
And so this episode, we will be reading Tyrion 15, his final chapter in A Clash of Kings.
Yeah.
Last we had left Tyrion was on the Bridge of Ships in the Battle of Blackwater.
Yeah, so he had started that chapter by leading the sortie out that the Hound refused to lead himself, and
fucked up the ram.
Yeah, took out the ram over at the King's Gate, over by the tourney grounds, and then went on on battle frenzy, like riding through and killing anybody
Ended
that came
up riding
away.
onto the Bridge of Ships that was created due to the clusterfuck that was the Blackwater.
Lost his horse, managed to fight his way across the boats before finally being offered a helping hand from lovely Sir Mandon Moore, pulling Tyrion up on the stage so that they can perform a duet out on the...
Except Mandon Moore don't share the stage with nobody, so he took a slash at Tyrion's face and would have killed him had it not been for one who sounded oddly like Podrick Payne, and Mandon Moore was shoved over the side of the railing as Tyrion passed out due to his wound, not knowing how serious it was or if he even lived. Martin, how could you? But obviously he lived, and we picked this one up with Tyrion dreaming, in quotes, because we have a lot of discussion about whether or not things are really being dreamed or seen here.
Yeah.
But he dreamed of a cracked stone ceiling and the smells of blood and shit and burnt flesh. The air was filled with acrid smoke, and men had groaned and whimpered and cried for their mothers around him. When he tried to move, he finds that he has fouled his own bedding. The smoke in the air makes his eyes water, and he thinks, am I crying? I must not let father see. He was a Lannister. No, a lion. I must be a lion. Live a lion, die a lion. And nearby someone is cursing the gods, and Tyrion listened to the blasphemies and wondered if he was dying, and then the room faded.
Right. So I'm going to start here by saying I don't think necessarily that all these dreams are coming at us in the order that they occur. Or if they are, they're if he's dreaming things that actually happened and twisting them into dreams with certain little warpings, but nothing. I don't think it's like fever dreams, hardcore, crazy shit.
Right. So this, you would assume, is the cellar that he's first found in?
That he's brought to, where they're bringing either the wounded or the dead or the unrecoverable.
Groans, the crying, the smell of burnt skin and acrid smoke all make sense due to victims of the Blackwater.
Right.
Okay, cool. So we basically established where he was.
The weird thing with this to me is, why does he worry about his father seeing him if at this point he doesn't know that his father is there? And so I can't let father see me.
I think
why would he?
That's the fever dream, I think, is
right.
Just not making sense of, I've still got to maintain my appearance. But as the room faded, he was suddenly walking outside the city in a world devoid of color. And all around him are bodies that are being tended to by both ravens and carrion crawlers. The wolves were gray, and so were the Silent Sisters. Together, they stripped the flesh from the fallen, and there were just corpses strewn across the tourney grounds.
Right.
So the tourney grounds is where Tyrion led the sortie first. And so you think this is not a dream?
Now, I want to say it's not a dream at all, but I think he's dreaming his trip back across the field, if he is dreaming. I don't think that this is all crazy, outlandish stuff. I think this is all things that he saw when Podrick was dragging him to safety. He saw the Silent Sisters tending to some bodies.
Would they be out that quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
You think?
Once the battle's won, they've left. That's what they do. They go and prepare the bodies, and that's the best time to go and do it. As soon
men
as
are still being pulled off, you think they're out there already stripping the shit from?
Yep,
okay.
I think so. And so same with the wolves being out there. There's fresh meat, and look at them all everywhere. Nobody's out fucking with them.
And the feast for crows that was left, right?
Of course.
The black smoke rose from pyres of the dead that the Silent Sisters were just tossing bodies on, and Tyrion thinks, my work. They died at my command. And
he can't remember why he commanded them to be dead. Before that?
Is that foreshadowing there? This battleground devoid of color. So essentially, to me, I always think of, what was that movie, Pleasantville? Is that what it's called? The black and white?
Tobey Maguire?
Essentially, it's all the joy of the victory, all the joy of the what happened here. Their city wasn't sacked. They didn't lose. Joffrey didn't lose his head. Stannis isn't king, so the Lannisters aren't fought. All the joy has been stripped from this victory as Tyrion walks around the battlefield realizing what has occurred in King's Landing. They all died at his command, and it just, with the villain thing that we've been paying attention to with Tyrion specifically, I think that could be interesting foreshadowing of these blackened, burned men. Yeah. Maybe Tyrion does give the command and tells Dany.
Well, see, because I also see with the, with the black and white, I also almost see it like the movie Volcano, where it's ash.
Yeah, right.
There's ash everywhere. Right. And so maybe the foreshadowing,
or in my heart of hearts, the best thing Tyrion gives the command to Arya, blow it, and the wildfire goes off type thing. Cool. It felt very ominous of him walking. It seems like in this dream setting, he's wandering through, not really being noticed by these and just kind of observing. But it's pretty heavy that he thinks it's his work. They died at his command, but. At first, there was no sound, but after a time, he heard the voices of the dead. I
noted the clothes that the Silent Sisters were removing, because I like that it was this almost. You would almost want to call it this reverse imagery, but really, it's what I expect they look like after being burned. The different sigils from all the houses, because it said that there were black hearts, gray lions, dead flowers, and pale, ghostly stags, and. While that sounds ominous and dreamy and fever shit, was my first thought, oh shit, what is this foreshadowing? That's what the bodies would look like once they're torched. These fucking vibrant colored sigils just lit up and then turned into whatever's left. They would be pale in fragments of what they were before.
Yeah, I definitely think there could be stuff read into there, but I think it's meant to symbolize that in death, they all look the same.
Right.
He
would have asked
he
one
hears
of the sisters
them weeping and moaning and begging for their mothers, but and thinks he had never known his mother, and the sight of all this makes him want Shay. But Shay isn't there. He's alone walking this battlefield, he notes, which to me is the odd part for your belief that Pod is carrying him, unless, of course, he's just so out of it that he doesn't really feel Pod under him holding him. He's just kind of floating through, he thinks. But it's an interesting line that Tyrion's towing right here.
Well, especially with the blood loss and stuff, and the fact that he took that hit to the face, and who knows where he's at. But again, part of me thinks that he's dreaming,
fragmented,
yes, but
kind of
parts,
piecing it in.
He's dreaming the memories because he doesn't recall them necessarily.
And then I also just liked the imagery of the arms and armor that were being stripped from the dead men, that they were loaded into a gray wagon that was pulled by 2 tall black horses, and it just, I don't know, it seems like the cart of death, these two, of all in this land devoid of color, I think black stands out so much, and it's these 2 tall, proud horses, and that was an interesting point to me. But then, he just thinks so many dead, and he thinks, why did I kill them all? He had known once, but somehow he'd forgotten. And again, why did I kill them all? Just sounds very ominously foreshadowing to me of the King's Landing.
Right.
And I don't know, but the forgetting seems significant with what Bran can do.
Right.
And so, this felt heavily foreboding to me.
Well, see, and that's interesting.
This sort of between state that Tyrion is in right now.
I thought it was very similar to Bran's dreams, with how Bran he's refusing to remember certain things. And then, whereas Tyrion, it's almost like he's got a honed skill on, no, there's something there. I need to think about that. What is that? Whereas Bran, as a child, runs from it. He's like, hold up. This is some important...
Well, Bran also may have, the three-eyed raven helping him straight up block shit.
Yeah,
you don't need that now. Put that Jaime Lannister memory away. But
so, it might be easier for
this is the most terrifying part. He tries to speak and finds he has no mouth.
Yeah.
Smooth skin stretched tight where his lips and teeth should have been. Fuck that. Mm-hmm. And this, to me, is... it's pretty obvious. Tyrion uses his wits. He speaks. His words are his power. And so pulling that away from him is absolutely the scariest fucking thing.
He's a bard with no charisma.
The discovery terrified him. He begins to run, thinking that the city isn't far and he'd be safe inside the city away from all these dead. He had no business being out here. He had no mouth, but he was still a living man. No, a lion. A lion and alive. But when he reached the city gates, they were shut to him.
Yeah.
So there is no solace to be found, is essentially what he's dreaming, or...
So, that, and I'm pulling this as that literal meaning as well, when he, and the literal foreshadowing, the city's turned on you.
Right.
You did these great things, and you're gonna think about that, and we end here with it. We're he saved the city, he's alive, it's good shit. No. You're going to get zero recognition from the entire city. Nobody there is giving. And so they've shut their gates to him.
My tinfoil is that this is more foreshadowing that
he's going to
after the destruction, he's going to feel some sort of guilt and almost want to try to run back in, but it's not. He's not going to be. It's gone. There is no gate. The gate is rubble now, and so the city's shut to him. But obviously, that's a little tinfoil-y. But so. It's dark when he wakes again, and he realizes that he is in his bed chamber, with a nice canopy bed above him. He is sweating and weak under a heap of furs and blankets, and his head feels enormous, too big to lift off the pillow. I love the way Martin describes this, because it immediately puts me back to being 6 or 7 with a fever, and just how heavy your limbs feel, and just weak, and obviously... Tyrion was in warfare, so I'm not attributing a 6-year-old's, flu to, but just that weary, weak, your head feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds, and pulling it up off the pillow, especially with Tyrion, whose head is currently wrapped.
He doesn't realize it is, but he says as warm as it is, it was warm inside the drapes under all the blankets, and so that's how he was immediately aware of the. I think you even might have said that already.
Yeah.
But he tries to lift, and I like that he says his head feels enormous. He states it himself.
Yeah.
I've got this huge mask on and don't realize. And so
The Man in the Iron Mask,
Yeah,
Leonardo
yeah,
DiCaprio.
yeah.
Fuck yeah, my
That's
boy.
where I was going with it.
He tries to remember, and the battle comes to him in fits and flashes. Sir Mandon, suddenly, he thinks, and the
Fear
dead,
sweeps over.
empty eyes, he can picture them, the reaching hand, the green fire shining on white enamel plate, and fear swept over him, and he felt his bladder let go once again. So, yeah, the memory of it is terrifying to him.
Yeah, no, this is like immediate
It's
PTSD.
PTSD. Oh, yeah,
immediately
absolutely.
right here.
He'd cry if he had a mouth, and then he thinks, no, that was the dream. And
See, in that right there, like, he's confusing the dream with the reality.
Right.
So when he's recalling that dream to us, that's Pod dragging him from the corpse basement to the main city, where they're like, no, we're not letting y'all in here. Oh, okay, you can come in. And he passed,
Yeah.
and so he's really, who knows where he is and what's real, what's fading, and so I think that also gives credence to that. Oh, wait, no, I do have a mouth. That was the dream that I didn't have the mouth.
he cries out, thinks, someone help me. Jamie, Shay, Mother, someone, Taisha. And no one heard, and no one came. Is there a faceless man in the room with him? He fell back into a piss-scented sleep.
Gross.
Yeah. Poor Tyrion, having it rough. He dreamed in quotation, of Cersei standing over him with Tywin beside her, frowning. But Tyrion obviously believes Tywin to be busy fighting Robb Stark and not in the city.
So this part, I'm just gonna say, I don't think none of this is a dream.
No,
none of it.
Cersei and Tywin came to check on him, and that was probably right
when he was
after
moved
he got brought to
the Queen's
Maegor's.
Ballroom.
Yeah.
Or above it, and
Right.
then Littlefinger, first
Varys.
Varys shows up and
sighed.
he sighs.
Is that our best hope to leave
I
the city?
think that's damn it, like, please survive. Like, I still need you as like your.
I think it's more dismissal. Like, I think it's that sad of like, shit, he's done. Like, Tywin's back. He's stripped of power.
We're fucking
this
lost.
was our best hope, and now Tyrion is stripped of all power. He can do nothing except sit here and basically lay in his own piss.
Yeah.
And so, shit, there goes that.
Littlefinger, and this is how he knows it must be dreams, is because Littlefinger just makes quips.
Yep.
Which, who would expect anything less?
Bloody, treacherous bastard, he thinks venomously. We sent you to Bitterbridge, and you never came back. So yeah, Tyrion's fucking out of it. He doesn't know Littlefinger is indeed back. He wants to ask if they had won the battle, but he figures that if he lives, they won. And he's not sure what to be more excited about, the fact that they may have won the battle, or that his wits were coming back to him, which was good.
Yeah, so it did.
His wits were all he had.
That's all he's got. He says that they talked to each other.
Yeah.
And that he couldn't understand because their voices buzzed in his ear like wasps muffled in thick felt. His head's wrapped in shit.
Yeah.
And so I think it's neat how George is...
That, and there's probably that pulsing,
right, the fever,
pounding
like,
of the
absolutely,
fucking
the blood
wound,
rushing,
yeah.
and like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, poor little Tyrion is just getting fits and starts of people checking on him, different fucked up fever dreams from his PTSD, and not knowing where or when he is, really.
So the next time he wakes up, the drapes were open, and Podrick Payne stands over him.
So here's my theory.
Yeah.
Podrick Payne is standing over him with a candle.
Right.
We learn later that Podrick Payne was sent away by the maester,
Yes.
but had wanted to stick by him. I think Pod sneaks to him in the night.
I think
and
you're right.
Sits by him,
That's what I was gonna
stands
say.
vigil over him.
Fuck yeah.
And that's Podrick's vigil as a knight. I think it's
As a squire,
right.
like this
but
is my
that's what
lord.
knights have to. They have to
And
do
they have
their
to sit,
walk,
yeah.
their vigil,
His atonement,
and
yes.
that's what he's doing is standing vigil over his
Yeah.
mentor, and I fucking love
Dude,
it.
so
But
tight.
seeing Tyrion's eyes flicker open, he runs off, and Tyrion tries to call out to him, but only manages a muffled moan and thinks again, I have no mouth. But this time it's just...
Yeah, this time he feels up and feels the linen and the plaster and the mask on his face. And it was only a short while later when Pod returned.
with an unfamiliar maester.
Yeah, fuck this guy, dude.
And he says,
Fuck
"Be
him.
still, my lord," and asks if he's thirsty, and Tyrion nods, and he holds up a crazy bronze device that helps Tyrion sip. But too late, Tyrion realized that the maester was giving him milk of the poppy, and he spirals back down into sleep. And this time, He dreamed he was at a victory feast in some great hall. He had a high seat on the dais. Men were lifting goblets to him and hailing him as a hero. Marillion the singer was there, singing of the imp's daring deeds. And even Tywin was smiling with approval.
Yeah, so now I think this is the one true fever dream with some actual foreshadowing here.
Yeah.
The red wedding, or do you think the purple wedding, any of the weddings, it's this big feast, and while Tyrion is clearly, I think the fever part is him assuming it's for him that's being cheered, and I get that the song was probably about him, but I think that this might be the foreshadowing of Tywin is approving of a feast. That's where the foreshadowing comes in.
Right. Yeah, and Jamie,
I'm reaching.
Jamie rose and commanded Tyrion to kneel and knighted him. Jamie Lannister sends his regards type thing. Like, yeah, there could be. I think it's more of this is what Tyrion wants. Tywin's approval. Jamie.
He's just dreaming.
Commending
his mirror
his
of
battle prowess and saying, "Yeah, you're a fucking sweet little badass with a battle axe." And Tywin's nodding, being like, "Yeah, that's my son, motherfucker."
Yeah. So yeah, his mirror of Erised.
And after he rose and Jamie knighted him, Shae was waiting there to embrace him and call him her giant of Lannister. So yeah, it's just his. This is.
Or this is his happy place.
Well, this is
like
his
Happy
ideal, what would have happened after the war, where
Right.
Tywin was like, yeah, Jamie was freed, and like, hell yeah, my brother's a badass,
Right.
and Shae's there, like, yeah,
Save the
you're
city,
sexy, and
so you can have whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's me, yeah. And he wakes in the dark to a cold, empty room that he doesn't recognize.
Yes, something was off,
he
but he couldn't
realizes
say
something's
what.
off, yeah.
And then he realizes that he was hurt much worse than he thought. The whole right side of his body is just one throbbing fucking pain.
On top of his face throbbing, and he again tries to remember what happened.
Sir Mandon.
And it comes this time.
Memory frightens him, but he holds it and makes himself stare at it. He tried to kill me, he finally comes to terms with. If not for Pod, I would have died. And then he's like, wait, where's Pod?
Where the fuck is Pod?
So he grabs a hold of the bed hangings and just fucking yanks, using basically all of the strength left to him to do so, and the drapes rip free, and he sees that he is not in his bedchamber. This isn't even in the Tower of the Hand. He has enough clarity to recognize.
He assumes that he's been, motherfucker, they moved me here to die.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm as good as dead.
So he closed his eyes, weakened from the effort of tearing the drapes, and thinks that the room was dank and cold, and he was burning. And as Tyrion fades off to sleep, one last time, we are going to convene our small council before finishing up this Tyrion chapter. Just let you guys know where you can reach us get you guys the details, because obviously we have a schedule change as episode releases, so we're going to jump there quick.
Scuttle. I was scuttling.
I see that.
This is the small council that never... No, I'm not even going to start that.
Don't you dare.
This would be the one that just goes on forever.
What up, guys? Hope everything is chillaxing with you.
Yeah, I hope you're not dying from
awkward.
COVID.
Yeah.
Or anything else. I mean, we don't want anybody to die from anything. But, especially the pandemic, because that's vile shit. We're kind of doing better. I think we're doing...
We're getting there. Obviously, if you're listening to this episode a day later than you normally would be, and that is because hopefully that will help us be doing better. We've switched our release schedule to Tuesdays and Fridays now, and so be a lookout for our episodes then. Instead, it's just going to help Nate and I with Nate's new job that he's starting here very soon, and some of the things with Nate's kiddos. Myself, I'm currently in the process of doing some dental work. And so
all sorts of life.
Yeah, and all sorts of life. And with the pandemic, of course, because we're still stuck in America where we can't do things right.
We appreciate you guys adapting to that.
Yeah.
So we're going to let you know how to reach us. So that way, if you wanted to send us your inductees, your thoughts, your
mail
well
about
wishes.
Our schedule change.
Hate mail, yeah, sure, fuck it, whatever. And so the first way, email withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. The next best way is probably a direct message on either Facebook or Twitter, facebook.com/brotherhoodpodcast.
Right.
Twitter @mannerswithout or Zap Zach's over there at Carstark92 sometimes. Instagram at MannersWithout as well, just like my Twitter. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/ let me flip to the front of this book here. That's not the URL. Patreon.com/ Without Manners, where we, give you access to a private Facebook group, and when we are able to find the time, we release bonus content episodes, and it's coming.
Which, hopefully the schedule shift will help with that as well.
That's the main, we've got you guys in
Patreon
mind.
is very much in the forefront of our heads.
And our hearts, because you guys are lovely, and we love you so
Speaking
much.
of forefront in our hearts, I think that's about it, and we can jump back to Tyrion for the last time.
So if you nominated us, slating will be announced towards the end of this week, so we should know if we got enough to get on the ballot. And if not, thanks for trying. Better luck next year.
Yeah, thanks for your votes. We appreciate anything you guys do for us.
So in the meantime, rate us, review us, and subscribe to our show. Tell your friends, your family, tell your dog. We love dog listeners.
Love dogs.
Dog listeners are the best.
Can I pet your dog?
Dude, we will pet your dog.
Send us dog photos.
Hell yeah.
Please.
Dude, yes, for real.
Just blow our Facebook up with photos of your dog.
All right, go back to listening to Tyrion's final chapter of Clash of Kings.
Puppy. Oh.
Yeah, it's a plane crashing into Tyrion's life.
Oh.
You go ahead and do what you were going to do.
Planes exist?
Not in this world, no.
Tyrion,
metaphorically,
next dreamed of Bill Weasley and Fleur Delacroix's nice little cabin by the sea.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
The
anyway,
snug little cottage by the sunset sea.
This is the sweetest thing that I just want to be sick. Like,
it's so sad.
It's the most terrible thing.
He thinks that he had always been warm there, even when they let the fire go out. She used to tease him about that. He used to forget to light the fire, saying it was servants' work, and she would tease him, saying, "You're the worst." He would claim to be her servant, and she would say, "You're the worst servant ever." And what would they do to the worst servants at Casterly Rock and in the cutesy, disgusting? We kiss them here, and we kiss them here, and it's fucking adorable and heartbreaking at the same time.
Yeah, dude, because seeing this glimpse of, this is probably one of the purest memories. Maybe, there's some things,
absolutely.
And to see how pure and true the love was, for that reveal when it comes that she wasn't a paid whore.
No, she wasn't. All this stuff she says is true, yeah.
Fuck.
Because he thinks that they would just spend hours in bed. Her body was a wonder to him, and she claimed to have thought the same of him. And now we know that that's true. She actually was in love with him. I mean, we don't know the woman. We've never met her. Stop. She would sing to him and tell him that that she loved him every single night as they went to sleep. And she loved his face. She loved saying his name. She loved his cock. She loved just everything.
Everything.
And now he thinks lies, all feigned, all for gold.
Damn it.
She was a whore. Jaime's whore. Jaime's gift, my lady of the lie. What a fucking line by George R.R. Martin.
My lady of the lie.
Jaime's whore, Jaime's gift, my lady of the lie. Like, because I think that's Tyrion still being like, I really wish I could believe that she loved me. Jaime's gift.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The truth is Jaime's whore and the lie, but it is true. She was Jaime's gift. She loved you. She loved you. Anyway.
More than anything, and that's sick.
Her face dissolved, and yet he could still hear his name being called softly. And through the haze of sleep, he sees a gross, soft pink face leaning over him, and the maester that he saw earlier is offering him more milk of the poppy held at the ready.
So the imagery for the soft pink face.
Yeah.
Anytime I think soft and pink, no, for me there's two, and it's weird. Ramsay and Joffrey's lips, because Sansa says that he has these gross pink lips.
Wormy
and so
lips.
The fact that I feel like Martin uses similar imagery for these types of, like, instead of the old Shane in the black cloak, it's the bad guys in the white, black, and all that. He uses this type of shit, like these, that gross, the puffy pink face and lips and skin, like. And so I don't like this Balabar motherfucker.
As he leans down to give more milk of the poppy, Tyrion reaches up and grabs this maester's chain, pulled and twisted until the links dug into the man's neck. And he croaks out, "No more."
And he doesn't let go,
He doesn't let go till the maester was purple. And then he released him and begins basically making a ripping gesture at the front of his face in front of his bandages. And the maester gets what he wants and says that that's unwise. You're not healed. The queen would. And at the mention of his sister, Tyrion growled and then pointed at the maester and curled his hand into a fist. A threat, if ever there was one.
He understood the message from this.
And he thinks, as the mention of his sister comes up, he thinks, are you one of hers then? And probably, Tyrion, yeah.
Well, that he'll come to learn, especially when he finds out that she moved him.
Yeah, right. And so the maester agrees that he'll do it, and he bows and leaves, returning not long after with a long knife with a saw blade tooth, a basin of water, and some soft cloths. And Tyrion, at this point, was half sitting up against his pillow, and so the maester begins, and Tyrion thinks, well, if Cersei wants him dead,
one slip of the wrist,
and he's one of her braver payroll motherfuckers, then yeah, I'm dead. But
thankfully, he is not.
No, he's a coward.
Coward.
And the bandages come off. The maester then says he has to clean the wound, which he notes is looking
I liked
good.
Martin's descriptor here where he says that Tyrion could feel the cold air on his face.
Yeah, on his cheeks.
And it reminded me because I used to do the ski lift operating shit, and so I'd have my whole face covered up. But, you know, when it's time for break, I'd peel that shit down, and having that cold air just blast you. It's like that. Ooh, that's nice.
So this is when we get a little bit more of the clarity. When they had found Tyrion in that cellar, his wounds had been filthy. And so clearly, Pod, I would assume, dragged him to some nearby cellar where they were taking the dead and the dying.
And then once the battle settled.
And then once everyone chilled out and people started realizing we got to search for these High Lords who are missing, Pod probably
dragged him across. And
Tyrion.
That's where I think he was having the Black World dream.
And so the maester continues saying, one broken rib, maybe from a mace or a fall, an arrow where the arm joins the shoulder, all of which seem to be healing quite cleanly.
And we remember those attacks happened during that last chapter where he took the arrow in the shoulder, and he remembers not like, why am I there's a fucking arrow. Mm-hmm. Oh well.
And so Tyrion asks the maester's name, and it is Balabar. And Tyrion tells Balabar to bring him a looking glass and some drink, wine, no more poppy. And Balabar does as he's bid and retrieves both, and by the end of his second cup of wine, Tyrion feels ready to face himself in the looking glass. A little bit of that liquid courage.
Yeah. Pretty.
Yeah.
He
doesn't know whether to cry or laugh.
Yeah.
The gash was long and crooked, starting under his left eye and ending on the right side of his jaw. 3/4 of his nose were gone and a chunk of his lip. Someone had sewn the gash, kind of clumsily. But yeah, he says pretty as he flings the looking glass aside.
But then he does start to fucking, I was no looker before, so whatever. Like, shit happens.
And Balabar's like, well, and he recalls the moment that Jaime called Sir Mandon the most dangerous Kingsguard because you could never tell what his intentions were going to be. And he thinks Cersei must have paid him to see that I never came back from the battle. And as he kind of pokes at the puckered flesh, he thinks, another gift from my sweet sister.
Yeah, he also was thinking that if he hadn't leaned back, he'd have lost his entire fucking head.
Lean back.
Right.
Lean back.
And, where am I here? Oh, the Maester here says that, that's not the worst of it.
That's not the worst of it.
There's most likely going to be a scar.
There's going to be a scar.
Most likely. Yeah. Tyrion's like, are you fucking for
real?
Seriously? Get the fuck out of here.
He's like, yeah, my nose isn't likely to grow back either. Like, yeah, fucking dumb shit.
Teach me to play with a fucking knife. That's you. That's you. You cut open your arteries accidentally playing with knives.
I wasn't playing.
No, you were cutting, for real, the real story's worse than playing.
Stop it. We're not going through it.
All right, email me and I will tell you.
Don't you dare. Anyway, Tyrion says it hurts to talk. He's realizing how fucking sore he is, but he asks where they are. Not where are they, but what building are they fucking in?
What the fuck is this?
And he says they are in Maegor's Holdfast, in a room above the Queen's ballroom. Her Grace wanted you close to keep watch over you herself. And Tyrion's like, yeah, I fucking bet she did. And Tyrion tells Balabar to return him to his own bed in his own bedchamber. My lord, that can't be done.
Sorry, you ain't. This is your bed, dude.
And Tyrion learns of Tywin's return and his return of taking up the duties of Hand of the King.
And his heroic actions to save the city with Littlefinger and
Loras and Renly's
And
ghost.
this is where we finally get, which we, as full spoiler, have been revealing it every single episode since it happened, but that Loras
was in the
Tyrell
armor.
wielded the armor.
Right.
And
Tyrion isn't sure who to trust here, so he decides he wants Pod.
I love it. He goes through the list. Like, can I? No. Nah.
So Jacelyn, Bronn.
Like, Jacelyn's a good
Right.
thought, but, like, yeah, and fucking Pod.
Pod was on the bridge of boats. The lad had saved his life, and the maester's like, the boy? The odd boy? And Tyrion says, odd boy. Podrick Payne, you go, send him. Like, I don't want you, I want him.
Is that where we also learned that Cersei sent Podrick away?
Well, no, not yet, because Pod reveals that himself. Balabar hurries off, and Tyrion feels the last of his strength seeping from him. Cersei would have him sleep forever.
Right.
He would not be so obliging. And Pod enters, finally, meek as a mouse.
Yes, and
My
Tyrion
lord?
wonders, how can somebody be so bold on the battlefield and yet so timid in just a little? I've seen it, like, doing the job I just
It's
left.
Brienne Dog.
There's a lot of people that, like, you put them in that specific room, those death and dying rooms, the hospital rooms, and they don't know how to act. They're like, fuck, this is a weird place. The battlefield, the adrenaline's going, like, absolutely a good fucking reference. Brienne, like,
She doesn't do good with the High Lords.
socially awkward, like, around people, but you get her in battle, she's gonna fuck you up.
It's the most beautiful dance you've ever seen, yeah. And Pod says at this point that he had meant to stay beside Tyrion the entire time, but the maester had sent him away. And Tyrion tells him, hear me, send him away. I want dream wine, no more milk of the poppy.
I want you to go to Maester Franken, not Balabar.
Fuck Balabar.
Watch him make the dream wine.
And bring it here to me.
Bring it to me.
I want my own guard, Bronn. Where's Bronn? And Pod reveals they made him a knight.
Motherfucker's been knighted.
We learned in Sansa that there were over 600 new knights made that day, and so Bronn was one of them.
I think it's really neat that she didn't even...
I went back in to look for any specific call-out, and there is none. Yeah. And so Tyrion tells him, find him, bring him, and Pod says, as you say, my lord. And Tyrion grabs Pod's wrist and says, Sir Mandon. And Pod...
I didn't mean to... I'm sorry. And he's like, dude,
dead? You're certain dead.
He drowned.
He's shuffling his feet.
He drowned.
And he says, like, good. Say nothing of him, of me, nothing of any of it to anyone. And that's that. As Pod leaves, so did the last of Tyrion's strength, and he laid back and closed his eyes and thinks perhaps he'd dream of Tysha. I wonder how she'd like my face now, he thought bitterly. Do you think we will get an answer to that?
So here's a few things. I think...
Where did the whores go?
I think that if she were to meet him, she would be disgusted by what he's
devastated
become.
by
what who he is.
Yep.
And
especially at the end of Dance where we leave him.
Yeah, and he's... she might...
Because this is the start. This is the start of that bitterness.
Right.
That darkness in Dance
that
grows
where do the
with
whores
his father.
go? Yeah.
That's where this bitterness will start building here, is the complete shunting he just got for Blackwater.
Right.
He's stuffed in a room above the Queen's ballroom. Cersei and Tywin came once, and Pod is sent away from him while some creepy fucking maester is feeding him milk of the poppy.
Yeah.
Like,
Fuck
that bitterness is seated here now.
Yeah,
and it was Joffrey. Yes, it was Joffrey who ordered Sir Mandon to do it, not Cersei, I believe.
I think that's correct.
Because Joffrey, again, took the initiative like he did with Bran, thinking, like, this is what we need to do, so fuck it, Mandon, kill him. And he fucked a lot up, because now Mandon, we're down a Kingsguard, Tyrion's injured, and pissed at Cersei. Anyway, you got an inductee for
Podrick.
Tyrion's last chapter?
100%.
Has to be
Podrick for the last chapter of this Tyrion of the last... Yeah, Podrick. Fucking like, I just get so he's one of my favorite characters in the whole series, just because, like, he's such a fucking badass kid. Like,
mine is going to Tysha for that seaside memory. I mean, and like, we'll get a little personal, but like, if you ever had a relationship like that, you have those moments that you just remember. It was a perfect day, a perfect week, whatever. And it was just like magic, and that's what this was for Tyrion. This is their secret little seaside getaway where it was just them laying in bed, listening to the waves, staring at each other, into each other's eyes, at each other's bodies, and it was real for both of them. And Tyrion walks around with the weight of thinking that it was fake on her part, and it wasn't from what we know. And
which it gets that much worse when he learns that is completely fake with Shay.
Right.
Where
with Tysha, it was
so
true,
genuine.
Yeah. And so Tysha, for that memory and actually being kind and giving this clearly broken man something nice to hold on to.
Boy, even at that time.
Well, absolutely, this boy back then, but yeah.
Good one. Yeah,
Tysha.
So we did get an inductee from our wonderful French fry Julian.
What up, France?
He says, "Hey, you both. Hopefully you've had a nice day. Cheers to my Italian friend Sarah for sending stuff in. It was really nice listening to it. Hope there's been more contributions from her."
Oh, there has.
Sarah's always writing in. It's great. She's great.
She's fantastic.
And he says, "God, what a painful chapter that was. Physical pain, duh. Emotional pain, dreaming of Tysha, realizing he's been replaced his hand and sent out to die, nearly at least in Maegor's holdfast.
Right.
Nevertheless, interesting to see him get back his wits, as he said.
Right.
And finally, he would like to bring Lord Bronn into the Brotherhood.
Lord Bronn.
Doesn't that sound cocky and proud already?
Right.
Have a nice evening, guys. The war won Eris."
Hey.
Yes, it has.
It has been won.
It was temporarily. Kind
I like that. That's a good inductee, Lord Bronn,
Yeah.
especially since this is, especially for you, Julian, this is the stuff with Bronn that starts to divert heavily from the show. And so hopefully, I know you at this point have started Storm of Swords by the point you've read this, so hopefully you've gotten some bits of what actually is occurring with Bronn now.
Yeah,
and it's
awesome.
new for you, and I think you'll really like it. So, Lord Bronn is a great inductee for Tyrion's final chapter. Thank you, as always.
2 chapters left of Clash of Kings.
2 fucking chapters left of Clash of Kings. Next chapter is Jon's final, and then we're on to Bran's final.
What? Bran's alive?
Oh, spoiler.
Dang. Oh, well. Anyway, get us your inductees for those last 2. Then usually we will be doing a Clash of Kings episode wrap up, and then get back to you. We're going to probably take a little break.
A little hiatus to catch up, get some episodes.
Let me wrap up some of my classes that are finishing up right now, and then...
But we'll be jumping into Storm of Swords pretty quick. There won't be a long
we're way too
break,
excited.
Right?
Yeah, way too
So
excited.
put on your parkas and join us next episode up in the north with Johnny Snow.
Valor to Harris!
Peace.